In this video, we're going to be talking about tags. Tags in Ignition are points of data that have static or dynamic values. The values can come from OPC addresses, such as from a PLC, a SQL query, an expression or a calculation, and many more. Tags in Ignition are very important because Ignition uses them to configure real-time control screens, set up alarming on the tags, and store history on their values. We are going to go over how to do all of those things in a later video, but right now I just want to focus on tags and where they're stored. To find Ignition's tag databases, we're going to go into the Configure section, scroll down until we find the Tag section, and go to Real-Time. In Ignition, tag databases are called real-time tag providers. While you can create as many tag providers as you want, Ignition comes with one by default. It is called Default, and it is a standard tag provider. The standard tag provider type means that all of the tags in that provider are stored and executed on the Ignition server. Because they are stored and executed on the server, this means that they are global and can be accessed from any project and are not specific to any one project. I'm going to go ahead and make a new tag provider. Now we have a couple of different options here. First, we have the standard tag provider, which we've already briefly talked about. Second, we have the remote tag provider, which creates a tag provider here that links to a tag provider on another gateway within the gateway network, and then the tags are actually stored and executed on the other gateway in the gateway network. And finally, we have the tag consuming and driving providers. These are both stored and executed in an external database and are handled completely within there. We'll talk about the last three in later videos, and right now I just want to focus on the standard tag provider. Creating multiple standard tag providers can be useful because it can allow you to isolate and group different sets of tags with each other depending on certain conditions. Say, if you wanted to group certain tags from certain areas of your facility. So, even though all tags are available to all projects, you can actually group a specific tag provider to a certain project. There are a few things that we can configure here. First is the name. I'm going to call mine Site A. We can also give our tag provider a description if we so desired. We can define roles that a user must have in order to edit tags from this tag provider. We can also choose to enable or disable this tag provider. I'm going to leave it enabled since we're going to be using it. Finally, the last property is the default database. This allows you to set a default database for any query tags that you may be setting up in this tag provider. I'm not going to be using a database, so I'm going to go ahead and create my new tag provider. Now to create and use tags in Ignition, we're going to need to go ahead and open up a designer. I already have one open. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project and give it a title. And finally, when creating a new project, you can specify a default tags provider. This is where we can group a specific tag provider with a specific project. You'll notice that by default, all projects are going to be grouped with the tag provider called default. But I'm going to go ahead and change that to be the Site A tag provider we just created. Then I'm going to go ahead and create my project. Now the tag browser on the left here is where we can create and modify all of our tags. I'm going to expand mine a little bit so it's easier to see. You'll notice there are already a couple of folders defined here. The ones we're worried about right now are the tags folder and the all providers folder. Now the tags folder is going to contain all of the tags that are within the default provider for this specific project, which we defined as our Site A tag provider. Now it's going to be empty because we haven't set any tags in here yet. Now I can easily define some tags in here. I'm going to open up my OPC browser and go into my simulator device, and I'm going to bring these two folders of tags into here. Now these tags exist in this tag provider. Now, just because Site A is my default tag provider for this project doesn't mean I also can't see other tag providers as well. I can simply open up this All Providers folder, and you can see I can see my default tag provider and my Site A tag provider. If I open up my Site A tag provider here, you'll notice it contains the ramp and random folders because we dragged them in here earlier. I can open up my default folder, and you can see that it's empty. I can drag some other tags into there, such as the realistic and sign folders, and while they populate in this tag provider, You'll notice they don't populate into the Site A tag provider, and they will not appear in this tags folder because the provider named default is not the default tag provider for this project. One thing to be aware of is that the ramp and random tag folders that's in the tags section and the ramp and random folders under the Site A folder in the All Providers section are actually the exact same tags, not duplicate tags. We essentially have two views into the exact same tag provider, so whatever you do to one will happen to the other. It's important to make this distinction because if you ever mistake one of them as being duplicates and delete them, they will be permanently deleted from both places. So it's important to note that while tags are global and can be accessed by any project, I can make separate tag providers to help group my tags in any way that I want.